Welcome to Happy Wife, Happy Life. We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl Landreth.
And I'm Jordan Myrick.
And we are two incredibly unqualified,
but deeply in love comedians who are here to help you with all things relationship.
And what are we talking about today, Jordan?
Today, we are talking about first impressions with famous impressionist Mary Kelly. Mary, stop laughing.
I'm so sorry.
No,
Did I ruin that?
No. But
Okay.
You are famous for doing impressions.
I guess so. It's just very fun. I don't know if anyone's ever introduced me as famous for doing this, but
Right?
here we are.
Aren't
you are. Sure. I mean, I would say, yeah, I've garnered a following for doing impressions.
Mary
True.
does. The big thing you got famous for was mouth acting.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a video where you do all the different celebrities and how they act with their mouth, how so much acting comes from the mouth.
Yeah, that's the big one. Well, I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean over COVID. I was doing the thing where I was just franchising, like watching all the franchises over and over. And during Pirates of the Caribbean, I was just transfixed mostly by Johnny Depp's weird, like he was doing weird stuff with his mouth in that movie. And then I was like, of course, Keira Knightley's doing weird stuff in that movie with her mouth, as she often does. And I was like, oh, I think this is a thing.
Yeah.
So I made it into a video, and
I think the mouth, I've said this before,
but
I was like, I find you can do like all what?
The mouth,
as I've
are
always
the
said.
eyes of the face.
I always say about the mouth.
Yeah, what is Kendahl about to say about the
always
mouth?
What's your thing about mouth?
Because you are very impressive to me because you do so many impressions, which is amazing.
Unbelievable.
Sure.
But I found that other people less skilled than you, no one in particular, but I've seen that people will do like, there's like groups of celebrities that if you can do this celebrity, you can do that celebrity. I feel like Drew Barrymore is one.
Yeah.
Where if you can do Drew Barrymore, you can also do Jennifer Coolidge, and you can also do, like, there's a couple people where it's like your mouth is just shaped a certain way.
Yeah. With certain, like I have a couple of videos too that are almost sort of like morphing from one to another, because a lot of times, and I've since learned, like after putting, like I have no education whatsoever in like, what's the word?
Dialect?
Yeah, like no.
Linguistics?
No.
Mouth.
In mouth. No, in
Pathology, speech pathology.
Yeah, speech pathology, exactly.
Wow,
I don't
good job.
have
Thank you.
One of my dear friends is a speech and language pathologist. And when I started doing all this mouth acting stuff, she was like, you're talking about oral posture. Like that's like a thing. Like that's like a technical term. And certain actors have similar oral postures. And so like literally the way their teeth are formed, and like there are certain actors, I find this so fascinating. I could talk ad nauseum about it, but certain actors that have all were like thumb suckers, and therefore like their palate developed a certain way, and their tooth shape developed, their bite developed a certain way. So they all speak in very similar ways, and like their oral posture is the same. So that's very interesting to me, like to really see like similarities between celebrities, like just from the way they talk. So
Yeah.
I
that's
think
why
people
it continues.
don't realize how much stuff is like that. I remember in acting school when I learned that having a lisp is just tongue placement.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can just unlearn having a lisp.
Yeah. Well, and there are so many kinds of lisps. There are so many, like everyone's always like, Drew Barrymore has a lisp, and it's like she does, like, I don't know. I've learned so much about people's like oral postures and the way they talk, and
So do
orthodonture.
Because some people, like, are you naturally just, can you just like hear a voice and be like, oh, I can do it? Or do you really like deep dive into that person, like the way they move their mouth and learn? Or are you just kind of naturally good at repeating like a parrot what people do?
I've always, for whatever reason, and I think this is something that some people do have like inherently, is like I do have like an ear, that, as they would say. Like I am a singer. Like I've always like been able to, if someone does or says something, I really can usually repeat it back the same as I hear it. And that's often how I'll do, like if I'm recording a video of myself, I'll watch something that someone, like an interview, and then I'll be like immediately to my phone, be like the same, just repeat that to the camera. But in terms of like, I hadn't really ever developed like the facial aspect of it until start doing stuff online. Because I went to school for theater. My acting teachers were never like, let's work on your impressions. Like that's not a part of any training that you do as an actor. And so I never thought, oh, this is something that I can hone or work on, or that's like any kind of marketable skill. But yeah, I think for whatever reason, it just felt weird to only be doing the voices. I was like, I really, it's like playing any character, like an actor playing a character. I really wanted to like become the actor or whoever celebrity that I'm doing an impression of. So I was like, oh, why not go for the full thing?
Yeah.
And then that ended up I ended up like being able to kind of work towards that too and do that too. So
incredible.
The whole package
the
all
whole
together.
package.
It's
The
really
whole celeb.
It's really unbelievable. If you haven't watched it, you absolutely have to go to Mary's Instagram, TikTok, follow, watch. It's so incredible.
you.
I remember the first time I saw you do it. It was weird for me because it came up on my
Yeah.
For You page, and I've known you since I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
You and I used to do comedy together in New York. So I've known you forever. I've always known you were very funny, a very talented actor. I feel like when I first met you, you were like in the running to be Elphaba in a Broadway national tour.
Oh my God. I booked Nessa Rose.
That's what
the
it was.
national
Okay.
tour.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
But I was getting married. I literally was getting married.
She's married.
I'm married. I was getting married, and it was gonna be like literally all during my whole wedding was paid for. My everything was paid for, and I was like, I don't think I can do this.
Oh, it was on your wedding.
It literally. Well, I'd be touring around the country. Yeah, and my wedding I think was like 2 months later or something. I was like,
I
I
don't
don't
said
think
it's
I can
on your
do
wedding
this.
as if it was. You said it was one night only.
Yeah.
They
It
were
was
doing
one
a
night
guest
only.
Nessa.
They needed me for one night for Nessa, and I had to say sorry, can't do it.
Yeah.
But no, they were like, you could take your honeymoon in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I was like, we've already paid for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
It just was like, this isn't. Yeah, and I don't regret that.
Yeah.
Good.
I think that's great.
Different life path. But
Yeah, but I've always known you're very talented. There was no doubt in my mind about that. But then when you came up my For You page and you were doing the mouth acting, I was like, this is unbelievable.
Well, that's how I felt when I saw videos of you, which I was like, obviously you're wonderful.
Videos
and
of
funny.
me doing what?
Well, when you started coming up on my FYP.
What, and just talking about a restaurant? You said, this is unbelievable.
You're like, this is what I would order from Raising Cane's.
Yeah.
And I was like,
You're
Jordan.
like, I've never seen anything like it.
No, but like I started having friends sending me your videos and stuff, and
God.
I just
So
was
sweet.
like, that's so crazy. It's my friend Jordan. But yeah, it's surreal. It like to have people be going like, oh my God, what? You're showing up on my page?
Yes.
Like, and I'm both of you, I'm sure have experienced this. It's like, and when you put a video out there, like especially those early videos, you're like, no one's gonna see this.
Yeah.
Like, we're stuck inside during COVID, and like nothing exists or matters. But then all of a sudden, and that part's surreal too. Like once you start seeing the numbers rack up, and you're like, who the fuck is watching?
Yeah.
Like,
Who are these people?
'cause I don't really care. I don't really watch impressions. Like
Yeah.
I really like. I've never been like a big like upset. Like some people that I don't know will send me videos and being like, thought you might like this. Like, look how cool, look how great this person is at impressions. And I'm like, that's so great. And I think people,
But you're like, I'm kind of focused on me.
I'm just
Said
sort
nothing
of
can
like,
impress me. I've done it all.
I can do everybody. No, just like old videos of Jim Carrey is incredible
Absolutely.
at impressions, and I'm like, that's so cool. But I don't seek it out necessarily, because I do think that every impressionist, like everyone has their own little flavor.
Absolutely.
So,
What's your flavor?
I mean,
What's your flavor?
tell me what's your
flavor? What is that? What was that? Fanta? What was that from?
I think that was
your
Fanta. Tell me what's your
flavor.
Is that a real song?
Yes, absolutely. You sang it with me so immediately.
Well,
There's
yeah,
no
but
way.
like, is it a commercial song or
Well,
is it a song?
No, it has to be
Used for a
because it's like because Fanta was wanna Fanta, don't you wanna
yeah.
Fanta? Okay, what we're thinking about is something, and people in the comments will tell
Yeah,
us.
okay, they'll let us know.
So, what is your flavor?
My flavor, goodness. I mean, I think the different flavors are like the Jim Carreys of the world. It's almost like a lampoon. Like it's big and it's kooky and it's like taking one kind of idiosyncrasy of an actor and like blowing it up big, and which is so funny and so cool. And I feel like he's so fearless with that. I think for me, it's almost more of a like a subtlety to it. Like I think I don't necessarily just take one idiosyncrasy and blow it up. Like I try to kind of really, like I said, like
You
play
sound
the part.
exactly like these people.
It's
Like I think there's
unbelievable.
people like I feel like Kate McKinnon is maybe a good example where like when she was on SNL she would do like Hillary Clinton, but it's not like I was like, wait, is that Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, she's doing a funny
It's like she would
rendition.
She would
of
take
Hillary Clinton.
one bit of Hillary Clinton and like heighten her to the max, and it's like this could be any president. Like this could be a million different characters. This is like Leslie Knope. This is like all these different people.
Right.
And then there's some like I feel like Vanessa Bayer was more like if she did an impression, it was like a really, that sounds like if I close my eyes, that sounds like that person.
Yeah. I just think there are different ways to approach it, and like different, because everyone has a different sense of humor too.
Yeah.
Like I've also never been like a big, like I'm not as much of like a big.
You've always
comedian.
been subtle.
Yeah.
When we
like
used to do
that's-
improv together, I feel like your choices would
Yeah.
be not so cartoonish. They would be more
Right.
true to life.
Yeah. And so that ends up kind of being how I approach impressions too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, just because some of them, like sometimes when I do impressions live, like people aren't like it's not like laugh out loud. Like,
Yeah.
so, a lot of times people are going like, what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
being like,
Yeah.
how is it? Like, I think people sometimes are like processing it more so that like I'm not setting up punchlines necessarily.
Yeah.
Sometimes some videos I'll write like what I think the celebrity would say,
Yeah.
and then it's a funnier scenario. But when it's a real video where I'm like, oh, I'm straight up just trying to be this person,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like outright funny.
Do you think people's things that you pick up from them change as they get plastic surgery as they get older?
Oh my gosh. I actually haven't even thought about that.
Really?
Well, there are certain, I think because certain actors, like a certain era of theirs lasts in my mind, and that's who I'm doing an impression of.
I
like,
see.
I don't as often watch like sometimes I'll watch like for, reference points, I'll watch like current interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's like, the Drew Barrymore that I think of is like the collective conscious Drew
Yeah.
Barrymore, like not necessarily like her on her show right now, or I mean it's some amalgamation of it, but I'm trying to even think of like who really has like outright had like straight up plastic surgery.
I think Jennifer Coolidge has gotten more
Oh, sure.
kind of pinched
Sure.
in the mouth as she's gotten older, maybe.
Yeah. Though for her too, it's like, I guess what I'm realizing as we're speaking is that like, I think a lot of my impressions are like composites of like their whole life of
Sure.
like when I do an impression of Jennifer Coolidge, it is really it's her now, but it's also her in like a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, I have done videos before where it's like I do impressions from different movies throughout like an actor's career. And that is interesting. I should pay more attention to that.
Okay. We got to get into the dating.
Sure. Oh yeah, that's the theme.
You're married.
I'm married.
Congrats. You've been
thank
married for
you
a long
so
time
much.
now, right?
I've been married. It's going to be 7 years in October.
Wow.
Sick and twisted. It's a long time.
Unbelievable.
Sick and
We've been
twisted.
together since 2010.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
How'd you meet?
We met at college. We went to Northwestern together. And we were friends. He was 2 years old. His name is Chase. Shout out to Chase. Angel, sweet Angel. He is 2 years older than I am. And I thought he was cool. He's the big man on campus. He was the head of student theater at Northwestern,
Oh,
which coveted
wow.
role. And we were just friends for a long time. And then I saw him in The Who's Tommy, the musical
Yeah.
Tommy. And he just caught my eye.
Was he Tommy?
I saw him in a different way. No, he was the lover who, spoiler alert, kills. No. Yes, he's killed. He was murdered in it. And yeah, he's like Tommy's mom's lover.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said, I want him to be mine.
And I was like, that's hot to me. And I saw it with my mom, actually. My mom was visiting. And then after that, I was like, I'm going to get his phone number. I don't have his phone number. So I Facebook messaged him.
Sure.
That tells you what year it was. I Facebook messaged him and I was like, my mom thought you were great in the show. And I realized I wanted to tell you that, but I don't have your phone number. So if you could let me know what that is. And he was like, ha ha, it's this. And I was like, okay. And then we were in a play together. We were in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Classic.
Did you have
On
to
the main
kiss?
stage. No, I was an unnamed fairy.
Okay.
And he was it. So this was A Midsummer Night's Dream set in the 1960s at an all-boys Catholic boarding school.
Oh.
Sure.
So yeah, as Shakespeare intended.
That's always literally. I went to NYU, which I feel like
Yeah.
is similar vibes to Northwestern,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
always like everyone's always like, "We're doing Shakespeare, but on roller skates."
Right. And you're like, let's
please
just stick to the
Come on.
original.
Are you a Shakespeare fan?
I do like Shakespeare. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty like theater nerdy.
Okay.
And I loved being a part. I mean, it was a great production. It was really fun. I was also a freshman, and so like, and he was a junior, and there were a lot of older people in it. So I was like, I feel like I'm in a special group.
I'm sure you were so in it. You were like, this is the best production of
I was so in
anything.
It. I literally was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
This is high art. Like this is the best thing that I may ever do in my life. And I remember I would be like off stage. He played a reverend, but like in the original, in the play, he was like the head of the mechanicals. You know. We're getting into it here, but and he was a priest, I guess, and something about it, I don't know. I should probably look into that. But I like remember watching him from off, like in the
wings,
just being like, he's so cute. Ugh. And then I asked him to a formal, one of my sorority formals, and he was deigned to say yes. And then he slept through the bus. He like took a nap and missed the bus ride to the formal location. And all my older girlfriends, sorority sisters, were so pissed at him. They were all friends with him, and they had encouraged me to ask him. And they were all calling him, being like, "You're such an asshole! How dare you like leave our friend just in the lurch?" Like blah blah. There's this other kid that I literally texted, being like, "My date didn't show up. Can you come?" And he came. And he was running. He was running outside of the bus to come get on the bus, and he missed it. And I was like, "Sorry." So it was a whole big mess. I was sobbing. I was wasted. I my friends were like giving me like the bottles of alcohol. Yeah. And then he showed up at the party. He got in a taxi and he went all the way to downtown Chicago. He showed up and was like, "I'm so sorry. My alarm didn't go off, whatever. And I forgave him. And we have been inseparable for nearly 14 years.
So what was your first impression? I guess not good.
Well, all my girlfriends would call him like Mr. Sleepy boy, whatever, Mr. Sleepy Boy. And it did not help matters that like a couple months into dating, my mom came to town to visit, and I invited him to dinner to like meet her, and he slept through that as well.
Oh my gosh! What?
Yeah, he was very busy. He was very stressed.
Oh my god!
Is
he still a
overtime.
sleeper?
Not as much, no.
Right. He's traumatized. He's like, I don't sleep anymore.
He literally like has 800 alarms set for himself. But he, my first impression, I thought he was like kind of like mean at first, which I was like, hot. But he was a little, sort of like a Mr. Darcy sort of vibe where I was like, I want to win you over. And I did.
Wow.
But yeah, and he's just such a good actor. He's not acting anymore, but I just was like, it was a talent crush, kind of mixed with all different kinds of things. But
so wait,
what lasted?
Was your mom mad?
She was. She just was like, "What is happening?" I mean, she was happy to have time with me. Yeah. But she was sad that I was sad. Yeah. I mean, it was looking back on it, I'm like, he's lucky that I didn't fully break up with him.
I am like, you should have broken up with him. And obviously like, that's wrong of me.
No, it's extremely rude.
Yeah, because you guys have a very happy and healthy marriage. Yeah. So I'm wrong. But
that never ever happened again ever. Like
just the two big ones.
He never missed, and just the two times it really, really mattered.
Like, oh wait, and our wedding actually,
our wedding he ended up not showing up. Unfortunately,
he actually was playing Nessa on Broadway. He got confused.
He booked it since I didn't get it.
Yeah,
he got it.
He said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so somehow we made it through the sleepy times. Yeah. And now I would say I'm more of a big sleeper than he is at this point.
I feel like my first impression of you was a little bit grumpy, Jordan. Where like when I first met you, like on our first date, someone asked me my friend Fallon had asked me like, what was your first impression of Jordan on the first date? And I was like, I think the first 5 minutes, I was like, I'm really happy. They are not going to ask me on a second date. And then we had like a 6-hour date. And of course, then I was like, oh my God, we're obsessed.
Why?
But you're very, it was just the way you were talking. You were like, we got on the call and I'm just very like, oh, hi. And Jordan was like, and what do you do for work? And I told you, and then you were like, and where did you grow up? Like, and I just was like, oh, they're not into me. But then like 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, I think maybe they're into me. But I liked it. Like, even if you hadn't liked me at the end of it, I would have been like, I am more into them now because they're so stern.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, did you want to respond to that?
No.
Yeah, you seem fired up. So
I'm upset because I thought I was being cool and sexy, but I guess it just came off as stern.
No, it was sexy.
That is
and
sexy.
Cool.
I would say.
Wait, what was your first impression of me?
Oh, of you?
Yeah.
God, I truly don't remember.
I know, it was
but
so long ago.
We met in a comedic sort of
Yeah.
way, and so I was like, they're very funny. Like
Yeah.
Jordan's very funny. But there is like a wittiness to you that is like, there's like an intelligence that is
That's how you
that's
say
the
it.
That's what I
forefront.
should have said.
That's
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 what I
how
should
you
have
say
said.
it. No, I feel like you're much more bubbly than me. I
Yeah.
wouldn't categorize myself as bubbly.
You're
Sure.
just more mysterious. I think
Yeah,
I
sure.
would give
Yeah.
anything to be.
I would love to
know
be.
if
Oh
I'm
my God, I would love to be
mysterious.
mysterious. Well, I think you're. Well, and this is the way that Chase is too. And this is, I think, what was refreshing about him that I felt was that I had always dated people that were that like matched my energy of like overly friendly and kind of people pleasery, whatever. And he was so just like said what he meant.
Yeah.
And like was very honest. And I think that really makes you go, oh, I can trust you because I know you're not gonna, like I had previous boyfriends that I was like, oh, that's the energy I like because maybe it reminded me of like my siblings or something, like it was very when people are comforting and warm, whatever, you're like, oh, they're great. But like previous boyfriends were not. Like that meant that they were not forthcoming, and there was a lot of sort of like trying to figure out exactly what they meant because they were just super nice. Not that Chase isn't nice, but it's a subtle. It's like he really like reserved his sort of like true self for people that he really like cared about.
Yeah,
and that I find very refreshing.
Yes.
And it's different in our society. Jordan, you're a diamond in the rough.
But that's true. I feel like that's how you are because it's like I never have to be like, are you being for real?
Yeah, right.
It's
Exactly.
like you would tell me, and there have been times we've said something where I'm like, man, okay, very honest, but then it's like very comforting later if I'm like, is this outfit good or is this video funny or am I like being weird? I know that I'm gonna get an honest answer from you.
Yeah.
And in moments where you were being really sweet on the other end of things, it's like
it feels like
that's
you've
really honest too.
earned it. Yeah, like you're like, oh, this is real sweetness. This is real. It's not just placating me or something. And I'm a very anxious person. Or I'm trying to use in therapy, I'm trying to use parts language. I have very anxious parts to me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I've never even
there's
thought about
a
that.
part of me that is, can get anxious. And so to have a partner like Chase is so great because he is very grounding. Like there's, he really is like, this is what's real. This is what's true. This is, he has sort of a great perspective on things because he's not fluffing things up. He's very much like, he goes right for it. So
Totally.
I think it's like that's a great partnership to have someone who is a little more like bubbly, whatever, and then someone who I think it's a great compliment.
Yeah. I think I do also agree with what you said. I do think you, especially in the past, have been very like people pleasery.
Yeah.
And I am not like that.
Yes. Yeah. So it's definitely pushed me to be like, because even now there are
Setting
times where like
boundaries and stuff.
Yeah. Because even now, like I'll go to text someone back and I'll tell Jordan what I'm going to say, and they're like, no, you should say this. And I'm like, oh, sure, I'll go do that in a different room.
Sure.
I just think it's so easy to be like, I'm a people pleaser, and you position yourself as a people pleaser and the things you're doing as things that are for other people. But whenever I deal with someone who's like a really hardcore people pleaser, it makes me uncomfortable because I'm like, you are not pleasing me.
Well, I think that's what we've talked about before, where it's like
you're trying to please yourself.
I've struggled so much with it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's because I want to ease my anxiety. It's not really about like pleasing you, because half the time it's not even something that could please or displease you. It's just like me being anxious and stressed out.
Yeah.
But also like there is something I've had to work on as I'm like, especially as a friend, I will let things like build up and build up and build up because I don't realize that it's even being built up because I just will be like, sure, that's fine, sure, that's fine, sure, that's fine. And it's like, that's not pleasing anyone either. And then that's so unfair to the person that I'm mad at, even though they've never known. I'm always just like, oh my God, that's incredible.
Right. You're like secretly in your room being like, they're taking advantage of me. It's like, well, I let them. I mean, I honestly like something that really has changed my life. Like, thank God for therapy, but like realizing that boundaries are like better than just saying yes to everything all the time. Like, the real thing that makes everybody happy and have healthy relationships is setting boundaries and
100%.
like being honest with people. And like, I think being kind whilst setting a boundary. But yeah, I think for a long time I just was like saying, oh, I'm a people pleaser, but I also was just like letting people walk all over me. Yeah. And that's not helping anybody.
Yeah. And kindness and honesty should work in tandem. They are not mutually exclusive. But I think sometimes for some reason people will be like, you can be kind or you can be honest.
Right.
And I'm so firmly against that belief. Yeah. I'm like, be kind and be honest. And also like use common sense.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think that's why it's so great to have, at least for me, like a partner that is like, that reminds me of that. Like, you don't have to be like the nice thing, It's
Yeah.
like sometimes being honest is the nice thing.
Yeah.
It's like, but, those of us who have it deeply ingrained in us for whatever reason that like being nice is just saying yes all the time. It's like it's just not true. It's a fallacy.
Not true.
It's not true.
Oh, that's such a sweet story, though.
Yeah.
That's so nice. What was your first impression of me, Jordan?
Oh,
So my first impression of you was that you were hot,
Wow.
just
thank you
because
so
I saw your
much.
Instagram.
God. How fabulous.
Literally
And I have to
incredible.
assume your true first impression of me was the same.
Oh,
because
I was
you
just thinking about first impression on the date, like first impression on
In
our
general.
first date. Yeah, in general, yes, I was like hot. I mean, because it was on Instagram, so I only
Yeah.
could, look at. Yeah,
Yeah. And what'd you think?
I thought hot.
I
I
thought
said
Kendall,
that's good
I
stuff.
thought hot and sexy.
I thought Kendall was hot, and I said, oh, she doesn't post that much.
Oh, well, that's
And
interesting.
that made me be like, is that good or bad? I don't know. But it just made me be like,
We'll find
made
out.
you think.
Yeah.
It was
I
a
said,
thinker.
huh, it was thought provoking.
Yeah.
And then Kendall started DMing me, and I said, okay, thirsty.
Yeah,
And
geez,
that's my
Louise,
second
I know,
impression.
I know.
But I like that.
Okay, good.
Hard to
well,
get
that works out.
is not for me. I
that
do
had
not
not
like
worked
that.
for me in the past.
Yeah.
Actually, that energy
Yeah.
of desperation, people
Yeah.
didn't find attractive.
You know what? That whenever people are like asking me dating advice, whatever, especially friends of mine who are like just starting to date new people, and they're like, "Should I respond? Should I wait a little while to respond?" I'm like, no. Playing hard to get, I swear to God, is not real.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of that?
Yeah,
Just like,
I hate
especially at this point in our lives, it's like, go for it.
Yeah.
We're all sorry to break it to everybody, but we're all going to die eventually.
100%.
So go for it. And if the person that you're talking to doesn't like that you like them,
Yeah.
then that's not the person for you. Like,
Especially as you get older. I'm
Oh
like, maybe
my
when you're in high
God.
school and stuff, I still think it's silly, but okay, whatever.
like,
but I'm like, when you're an
yeah.
adult, if someone is being like, you're texting me too much, too quickly, whatever.
Yeah.
To me, that's just like being like, okay, well, then I feel like maybe we're probably not compatible or
Well,
looking for the
yeah.
same thing.
That's the thing is that some people will do, I feel like they'll do hard to get in the beginning of a relationship. And I'm like, that's so
Sure.
hard because you're going to set this precedent of like,
Yeah.
this is how I communicate. These are my expectations, which is like, I'm going to text you every other week and I'm going to take 8 hours to respond. And then
Right.
when you actually, that can only be kept in for so long. And then when
Yeah.
you actually start dating and you're like, I want to spend all my time with you, they're going to be like, absolutely
Right,
not.
it's
like,
just not what they're
that's not what I
used to.
signed up
Yeah.
for.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
100%.
It's
yeah.
like just be yourself. Like
Yeah.
I know, but I think people get afraid. They don't want
Yes.
to. They're like, I always have this analogy of like, in a relationship, it's like a little baby bird. It's like you can't squeeze it too tightly because you'll kill it.
Yeah.
But you can't let have your hands be too loose for it to fly away. And like, I think people get really scared one way or the other. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm holding on too tight, or like, oh, I'm not doing enough. But it's like, if you just are yourself, like you're setting the precedent.
Yeah.
And like, if they don't like you for who you are, then
Yeah.
you shouldn't be with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my first impression of you on our date was you seemed very nervous, and I thought that was sweet.
I was very nervous.
That's
Kendall, I've said this before on this podcast, so if you listen, you know, but Kendall made herself a bowl of pasta and then didn't eat it the whole date, just held it in front of her.
And it was
Because
a
she had
long
been like,
date.
do we want to
Yeah.
eat? And I was like, sure. So like I ate while she just like held this
Right.
bowl of pasta. And finally I was like, do you want to eat your pasta? And she was like, it's cold, but thank you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I think she's nervous.
I was very nervous.
When I get nervous, I can't eat either. Yeah.
It's also a really weird time to be dating because before we went on a date, I watched like, not to be creepy, but so many YouTube videos of you.
yeah.
Because I
A
like
fan.
I watched
Fan
a
behavior.
panel you'd
Wow,
been on.
embarrassing, actually.
It was really, I was like, watched a panel you'd been on. So I already, and I watched a cooking show you did. So I already knew all this like
Stunning.
information.
I know.
And then I was like, don't say
Yeah.
that weird information,
But that's wild to me. I wish, I mean, obviously everything's fine now. It worked out. But
Yeah.
I wish you had just been like, oh, I watched
did
these
the
videos of you on
research.
YouTube. I would have been like,
I know.
cool.
Well, that was something that I do feel lucky that, oh God, how many years ago? 14 years ago, like I couldn't really stalk chase that much.
Yeah.
I mean, and we were friends in college, whatever, but I definitely,
You're like, I
mean,
physically stalked him.
I
Yeah.
physically, yeah, I knew like, what kind of underwear he wore,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, I hadn't seen any videos of him. No, but I feel like nowadays, if I were going, I mean, even if I have a meeting with someone,
Yeah.
I'm Googling them, I'm seeing what
Yeah,
they're doing,
no.
what they're up to. I watch all their, so I would be I would know everything about a person.
I feel like you kind of have to.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's wrong. I kind of want to know what's going on with somebody before I go on a date with them or a business meeting or whatever. Make sure we're aligned.
What's their digital footprint?
What's their digital footprint?
Well, you
that
can
might
really
last
tell
forever.
an energy from someone, and it does make it to where I haven't gone on many dates where immediately I'm like, no,
Sure.
because I already figured out
You already
on
knew
social
that.
media. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We ready to get to the
Let's
question?
do it.
Oh my God, questions.
Yeah. Our
You're like, what have we been
fans-
doing?
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Our fans had some questions
fun.
about first impressions for you.
Okay.
They sent them in. And as always, if you're watching this, you can respond to our questions on Instagram or on Patreon, or you can directly email specific questions to hwhlpodquestions@gmail.com. All right. You like that?
I just love the official business.
It's very
It's very
professional.
fun because we're like just chatting as friends, and then it's like, and this is a very serious thing I've got to deliver, and then we're back. I love it.
Yes.
Showbiz.
I'm a professional.
You really are, Jordan, and that's really great.
You.
Congrats on that.
Okay. How long is too long to make my initial verdict on if we click or not?
Oh my God. Oh my, that's such a hard question. How long is too long? I'd say if you're like a month in and you're like, I still am really feeling like this isn't quite what's up.
Yeah.
Then that's not really fair to either of you because, that's a month. Like,
Yeah.
That's a chunk of time.
Yeah.
But it's hard because then again, it's like some people are, some people grow on you, whatever. But I think if that like really basic spark isn't there, it's on to the next maybe.
I think that's a really responsible answer. I
Yeah?
would say immediately.
Oh my God, Jordan.
If you have good taste. And I think
How
that's
can you guarantee that?
important. Well,
You know if you're toxic or
Okay,
not.
so then
You
what if
know
have
that-
bad
exactly.
taste? Oh,
exactly.
sure. Depending
you
on
know
past
if you're toxic or not.
relationships.
So
Oh, okay,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to be self-aware.
Okay.
If you are a Judge Judy and you immediately are being petty, bitchy, whatever about things that don't matter.
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to go to therapy and sort that out.
Yeah.
If you are a good judge of character, if you're thoughtful, if you've healed your past traumas,
Yeah.
and you're meeting up with someone and it's just not there, I think
Sure.
it's probably not going to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people want to have this kind of like childlike, oh, if he's mean to you, he actually really likes you, blah, blah.
Oh,
So
well,
people will be like,
that-
maybe that'll change. Or,
Yeah.
like we just started watching Bridgerton for the first time.
Oh,
and I think
God bless.
people, thank you.
Have you seen?
I've seen.
Yeah, of course.
It's hot.
I feel like people want that
It is
kind of
absolutely
thing.
hot.
People want to
Yeah.
friends to lovers, enemies to lovers. That's such a big romance trope. But
Yeah,
for me, it's
that's not
so
real.
rare in real life. So
Yeah.
if you meet them and on the date you're not clicking, I'm like, just enjoy that date and then don't go on a date with them again.
Yes. I mean, I guess the way I interpreted the question was if like you had a nice date, you're not like 100% sure. You're kind of like still figuring out what the vibe is. I mean, then I think give it like a month.
If you really don't know.
Give
It's
it
not
like a
like you're
couple
like,
days.
Okay. I'd say
But-
3 then. I'd say 3 dates. Let me
3 dates.
fix my answer.
Okay, 3 dates.
Yeah, based on what you just said.
Yeah.
I think 3 dates.
I would
Because
agree
the
with
first
that.
date could be nerves.
Yes.
The second date, you're still getting to know each other.
Sure.
But by the third
Yes.
date, you should be like locked into it.
I agree with that. But I think if someone's icky on the first date,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Follow your gut.
Yeah.
Listen to your intuition.
We started watching Bridgerton with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she was like, well, there's some steamy stuff in it. So as long as you're not comfortable
Yeah.
watching that with your mom. And I was like, Mom, I've seen a sex scene before. Like, it's
Mhm.
fine. It was
You
a
haven't seen
mistake.
this.
It actually was lovely. I had such a nice time watching with her, but
Yeah.
I don't think I realized. I told Jordan, I was like, it wasn't the aggressiveness of the sex in Bridgerton.
Mhm.
It was the length of time it happened. It was
Yeah.
just normal missionary most of the time.
Yeah.
But it would
wasn't
be for,
shocking.
like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I thought this would be like a 1-minute scene that we would get through as a family.
Uh-huh.
But we were doing a puzzle. We were doing a Jane Austen puzzle.
Gorgeous.
And it
This
was
sounds
just
like my ideal evening, to be
it was
honest.
incredible.
Yeah.
Had wine out. It was really
my
nice.
God.
And it was, so then we're trying to kind, because during a sex scene with your parents, you'll like start talking.
Yeah, you're like,
or you'll be like, you'll point out things. Yeah, you'll be
you're
like
weird.
the
weird hair
beds
on
wouldn't
her.
have looked like that, right? That's so interesting. Imagine having to undo that whole corset.
Right,
Like you're trying
right.
to talk. And I was like, at a certain point, I was like, I can't. This is
No,
too embarrassing to keep
no.
talking. So we just have to listen. And I was
In
just looking down at
silence,
the
yeah.
puzzle and it was just grunting for
Yeah.
25 minutes.
My go-to uncomfortable thing to say if I'm watching a sex scene with my parents or like my in-laws or something is like, this must have been so awkward for them to film.
You bring it back to the business of it all.
And back to business is that's just because that's how I am.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
back
that.
to business.
Okay, next question.
It's a great show, though.
Great show.
It's a great show.
I love what's her name? The jewel of the season. Phoebe
Nicole.
Dynevor, whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. What's her name in the show?
Nicole, I don't. Oh,
Daphne.
Penelope.
Daphne.
Oh, the
Daphne
lead.
Bridgerton.
She's talking
yeah.
about the diamond, the water diamond.
Oh yeah,
or
the,
whatever.
the
thing I don't
jewel-
understand.
whatever the season. The queen says,
Yeah,
oh,
they
she's the
call
whatever
her like
of the season.
the diamond of the water of the season or something.
Diamond
like
of
that?
the Waterfront.
No,
What the?
I think that might be it.
I think it's diamond of the water.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I remember
only
it
watched
because
season 1.
I distinctly remember being like, that doesn't make sense. And then Kendahl and her mom were like, no, it's like diamond in the rough. And I'm like, no, I understand that. Like you find a diamond in the rough and
But
then
you
you
don't
polish
find-
it.
right.
What
Diamonds
is
in water.
What is diamonds in water and why does that make it the best diamond? Do they store diamonds in water? I don't think so. I don't
Diamonds
know.
in water is just pollution.
Right. I might just have to do I might have to do a
don't know.
rewatch.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know in the comments what the
Yeah.
diamond in the waterfront of the pollution is. All right, the next question.
Okay.
How does a first impression factor in if you were friends first, then started dating? That's a perfect question for you, Mary.
That is perfect for me. Yeah, I mean, I really loved being friends with my current partner first because you do have that first impression of them where you're like, maybe you would have written them off if you didn't get to know them as a friend. And I also I have to say it's very nice to be able to see someone see their relationship with other people and kind of
Yes,
have a little bit of like a front row to like their life before you are like romantic partners.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, how does it factor in? It plays a big role because someone you might have gone on a first date with, and if they were a little chilly or whatever, you might, if you're Jordan, you might be like, see you next Tuesday.
Hit the curb, bitch.
Right, hit the curb. Exactly. But I feel very lucky that I got to like get to know him in the safety of a friendship before really diving in. And I always really feel like that also lays such a great foundation for a relationship if you really can be friends with someone for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because then once you make the friends to lovers sort of move is a big move. And like it definitely takes a lot of, you have to be really sure. And so I think that's a nice sort of test to be like, we really want to be together in this way. So we're taking the leap.
Was there ever a time though where you were the whole time you had a crush though? Probably.
I totally had a crush. Yeah. And he like kind of denies that he had a crush, but he absolutely did. I mean, he lived in apartment A1 in this like actual tenement housing, like decrepit, horrible place off campus that had like mice running around. He lived in A1 and I was in an a cappella group, and our apartment that we would like party at was A3. So he and his friends would come up from A1 and like come to our parties, and he would just hang around at these parties and like talk to me. And I'm like, okay, sorry, but I mean, he remembers what I was wearing the first time he saw me.
So
and
why
we were friends,
is
quote
he
unquote.
acting like he didn't have a crush?
Because he is too cool for school.
Too cool
and
for
he
school.
doesn't want to admit. I mean, he will be like, yeah, I thought you were cute. But like, he's too cool for
But
school.
he won't say he was in love, which is the truth.
It might be the truth. Yeah.
Well, we were
what I
talking
thought.
in the
'Cause
car
he's a
ride.
liar.
Oh,
That's what I thought.
Yep.
on the car ride over. Have you watched Abbott Elementary?
I've watched some of it. Yeah.
We were watching Abbott
Yeah.
Elementary, and we were like, first of all, huge fans.
Yeah.
But we were like, this thing they've got going on with Janine and Gregory
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make any fucking sense. Why
Yeah.
would these two people not date? Usually in a show, there's like a reason. It's like, well, she had a boyfriend and then she left him for him, but then he had a girlfriend and then now we can't, and now he's moving because of this reason. But in this
Yeah.
show, they're just like, it's
Just not-
we
didn't
can't.
happen. I
And it's like,
know.
what? Like, what is, there's no reason for you guys to not date. And then I think it was the end of season 2, he was like, if we start dating, we'll probably get married. So we just should not date. It's like no one's
okay,
ever
then get married.
that.
Then get married.
And so I wonder.
What are you afraid of?
But I've never really done a friends to lovers, so I was going to ask you if there really is that thing of like, well, but we can't. Because it's too much.
Yeah, I think part of it is it's a bit of a, at least for us, it was like a slow burn. And so I think it gets a little confusing because you're like, okay, I know I really care about you as my friend, but I'm also like, okay, but does that mean I want to be with you? And because then once you cross over, you're there. Like you kind of can't go back necessarily.
No.
But yeah.
Was your bachelorette party theme like, let's get married?
It was marry that girl. M-A-R-Y.
I knew it.
Yeah. And at the time there was that song. Do you remember that song that's like, can I have a daughter for the rest of my life? Marry that girl. Yeah. And that was kind of part of it. And that again tells you that my bachelorette party was in 2016.
Sure.
When was your wedding?
2017.
Because I feel like there's a trend on TikTok of people being like, I had a wedding in 2015, 2016, and I literally can't look at photos of it because it's the worst thing ever. Do you have that feeling about your wedding?
Luckily, my wedding, it was pretty like a classic experience.
I feel like you're fancy.
Fancy. I mean, yeah, I had like a very very classic like New York wedding.
Yeah.
It was very my goal when I was planning my wedding was like, I really want to look back at pictures and not cringe. Like I really want to look back and go, oh, this could have happened like
anytime
this year.
Yeah.
So I didn't really go for like super trendy stuff. But when I look at my Pinterest from that time, it is extremely embarrassing. Antlers were involved.
Oh,
just sort of like antlers at a New York wedding.
Yeah.
They have no place
on
there.
the wedding cake or whatever.
Yeah, literally like for whatever reason, part of collages. I'm like, just throw an antler in there.
It's so my favorite TikToks when people are like, this is my Pinterest board that I made when I was in high school for my wedding in 2014. And it's like every bridesmaid has like a different pair of Converse.
Mustaches.
And, like, the mustaches. And then there was a bunch where it's like the groomsmen like open up their suits and they all are different like Marvel character. And I'm like,
very scary to me. That's very, I mean, to have that really, I feel very, very lucky that Chase was also very much on board with like a classic wedding. He wasn't like, I want a groom's cake of like a duck or something. Yeah.
That's timeless.
That's timeless at the end of the day.
But it's cool if you got a bride's cake of a duck, right?
Yeah, for sure.
As your wedding cake.
I just like the groom's cake thing. I just like, there are certain wedding things that for whatever reason, like men are like insistent upon these like weird ass things. And it's like, just put on a tux and put on a tux and a smile, pal.
Yeah.
Just get through it.
Groom's cake is so funny to me.
Is
as
so
if
funny.
it's like
I need
the
one
other
too.
cake is too gay for me. We gotta have a boy's cake.
Some of the weddings I've been to, like my husband's from Tennessee. Some of the weddings that we've been to in the South,
I cannot imagine.
Heavens to Betsy. I mean, you really are just like, what? Like, right? They need like a man cake.
I mean, yeah, getting married is homo, and if you like getting married or you like your
Cake
wife,
is gay.
Cake is gay.
Multi-tiered cake is gay.
White
duck cake is not.
Yeah, white. The color white is gay.
Yeah, exactly.
Any kind of flower is gay.
Yeah.
We talked about this before, but we were also like, it's so funny when people throw a wedding, but it seems like they're being literally forced to throw a wedding, which maybe they are, but they're spending all this money and they're like, well, okay, like we don't want to do like a regular wedding. Like we don't want to have a cake, we want to have cookies. Yeah. And we don't want to have like, I don't want to wear a dress. I'm going to wear like a duck outfit.
Yeah. Right.
With my duck cake.
Yeah.
And like they try to change every aspect that's wedding. They're like, I'm not going to walk down the aisle. We're all going to like crawl down the aisle.
Right. So you're having a party. Yes. A weird party.
It's just like,
but that's the thing. That's what a wedding is. It's a weird party, like where people, sit and watch you and you like talk about how much you love each other in front of people.
Were vows awkward for you?
No, I mean, I am a performer, so I do sort of love a crowd. But Chase is a very private person, and so we wrote letters to each other that really had like our kind of spill our guts
that were gay
vibes that were so super gay.
Yeah,
and
just like the rest of the wedding.
I was crying. I cried on my wedding, like tears of joy, obviously. But I'm a very emotional person, and so if we like watch our wedding video back, literally the whole time I'm like like fully crying to the point of like mascara running down my face.
Yes.
Crying at every single aspect of the whole thing. I'm a big like sappy. I'm a very like romantic person, whatever. But we like wrote letters to each other and then we wrote vows together and we said the same thing to each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
That's
we kind
sweet.
of our
'Cause
wedding.
that's why we're literally like, we can't have a wedding because we're not doing vows in front of people.
It is a very strange. I mean, I do like the way we did it because it was business kind of. You know,
Yeah.
it felt very like I'm promising this to you, and you're promising the same to me, and it was very like these are the things that we are promising to each other.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I promise when I'm acting silly you can call me a silly goose. You know, like none of those kinds of like, very like we don't leaving the wedding going, I wish I knew less about these people.
Yes.
I've seen so many clips of vows where the man's like, and I vow to put the lid down or leave the house if I have to shit. And I'm like,
but Jesus
I've seen like
Christ.
5 of those. I'm like, you're at your wedding.
Yeah,
like,
that's
have
the
some
stuff.
tact and class, sir.
No.
A lot of people don't.
When people start to try to get funny in their vows,
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't a comedy show. These are your vows. This is solemn and serious
Yeah.
vows. Not that a wedding can't be fun.
No,
But
I
I'm
agree
just
with
like,
you though.
I don't know. I just really.
I'll tell you, one of the best weddings I've ever been to was for my best friend Colin, his older sister. No. My best friend Colin's twin sister, who is a minister.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this wedding, I think it maybe was the first wedding I ever went to or the second wedding I ever went to.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be too like traditional for me or whatever. But when I went to that wedding, it was awesome because they got up, someone read a Bible verse. Him and his brother got up and played the guitar for them and sang like a
Fun.
Tegan and Sarah song or something.
Gay.
Gay. That was gay.
This is
And they
religious
are
enough.
gay. And it was nice. It was nice religious.
Yeah.
It wasn't scary religious. It was
Yes,
nice. But
yes.
it was like so light. It was quick. They had their
Yeah.
childhood pastor marry them.
Yeah.
One person read a Bible verse. One person sang a song.
Yeah.
In, out, done.
That was
we all
like
had dinner.
ours.
We did some dancing, which
Yes.
was nice. Whereas like the more non-traditional weddings I've been to, it does feel like they're trying to be like, it's not a wedding. It's a party. And I'm
Right.
like, well, it's not a party because your Nana's here.
Right.
And
And you made us
I
all sit and watch you do
perform
a
for
ceremony.
us, and
Yeah.
I've paid $2,000
Right,
to
to
be here, which
fly
I wouldn't
here.
for any party.
Sure.
So it feels
Yeah.
strange, and also
Yeah.
I think vows feel weird to me personally because it feels like being like, and I vow Kendall's sister. Check this out,
Right.
I vow, where I'm
Right,
like, what?
I know. It's like you don't really need to. This is the thing. Your wedding is your wedding, and like any friends of mine that are planning weddings right now or that have recently gotten married that are like, and I feel this and this, and I feel like I need to do that. Help this person. Like this person wants to do this and make this decision. Whatever. I'm like, at the end of the day, like it's your thing. So like make it whatever you want it to be. That being said, I really do think that if you are asking people to fly to, even if it's not a destination wedding, like, then think about like the user experience.
Yeah.
Think about how your guests are going to be. Because like as much as they love you and they want to be at your wedding, it's like you want them to have a good time and you want it to be nice. So there have been weddings that I've been to that I'm literally like that they did not think for a millisecond about what anybody attending this wedding will be experiencing at all. They just were fully like full steam ahead. This is what I want.
So you're like sitting in the sun for like
Yeah.
45 minutes.
Yeah, on
like,
a hay bale or something.
yeah.
And you're like, okay. And then you're like, oh, the venue is 2 hours away. How are we getting there? They're like, we figured you guys would figure out a way to get there yourselves. You're like, okay. So,
That's really, if
It's
I
tough.
had a wedding in 2016, not the hay bales, but in a similar vein, there would have been millions of mason jars.
You would have been
I
a barn
thought-
girl.
Oh, yeah.
I would have what?
You would have done
Barn
like a
wedding?
fancy barn.
I would have like I don't even know. There would have been mason. The ring would have been in a mason jar. Everything would have been in a. I thought mason jars were so
little
fancy.
fairy lights in the mason jars.
mason
Oh my God,
jars.
nothing
We're drinking
classier.
out of mason jars.
Nothing
I'm marrying a
classier.
mason jar. It would have been
Yeah.
really bad.
I think that's beautiful.
Thank
and, as long as I was having a good time, I don't care if there are mason jars there.
Yeah, there you go.
I really don't.
Which do you think is this is okay? All right. Which do you think is more important, first impressions or long-term perception? I mean, what kind of question is that?
long-term
Come on, okay, I'm going to another.
He
I
was
love
hot
you.
when I met him, but he was a murderer.
Yeah, listen, I love you,
But it
but
doesn't matter. We're
that's a
married,
wild
so-
question. All right,
Yeah, that
let
is
me
wild.
do another one.
Who has that?
A stranger, a fan. Thank you for watching.
We
and
adore
being a
you.
fan. I
yeah,
love you.
but like, I hope
Um,
you're not in a relationship with someone that you don't have a long-term,
an incredible
good
first
perception
date,
of.
but they suck.
I do think there are people like that who have gotten married, especially like our parents' generation, where it's like the worst marriage you've ever seen, and they'll be like, "Well, we're gonna tell it again. The time we met on at a skee ball machine," and they tell it like it's like this is why our relationship is good. We had
Right.
this first meeting that's
And
so
they probably
special.
had like gorgeous sex, and then they
Yeah.
were like, okay, great, this is it forever. And they hate each other.
Sad, really
And yet-
sad.
Yeah. But there they are.
How do I make conversation and not come off as boring and awkward? P.S. Love the pod.
Oh.
Thanks.
Oh, I mean, if you're boring and awkward, it is hard to not be boring and awkward. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
You
just
can
have
be
to-
boring and awkward and
Yeah.
deserve love.
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
true.
sync up with someone. If you are constantly dating people that make you feel boring and awkward, you are not dating the right people.
Jordan, that's a great answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to sync up with people who make you feel like you are the most
Yeah.
exciting person on the planet.
Yeah.
And I speak from experience because anything I do, Kendahl goes, that's incredible. Anything I do. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if
yeah.
it's big or small
Yeah.
or silly or intense, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you have to find someone that makes you feel like you are not boring and awkward.
Yeah, my question is like, who's making you feel boring and awkward? Do you think you are boring
Yeah.
and awkward?
Sure.
If so, let's talk about that.
therapy.
Like, right? Like, because no one is really just
Yeah.
completely boring and awkward.
Yeah.
Also,
No.
awkward to who?
Yes, I always am like awkward. What is
Right,
There's
awkward
different
is-
types. Like
yeah.
I've gone on a date before where they were like, "I'm awkward," and I was like, "It's fine. That's okay. I'm awkward too. Whatever."
Right.
But then you get there and they're like, "I can't order for myself. You
Okay.
have to order for me."
Sure.
And then I'm like, "Oh, that's maybe like a different thing."
Yeah, and it's like shyness or whatever.
Right. But I'm like
Yeah.
awkward. I guess on a first date, I'm like, it's awkward.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
You're
our
having
first
dinner
date-
with a stranger.
Yeah, if
Right.
the
whole
awkward's part of the
situation
charm.
is- Yeah, right. And I'm also like, I'm such a, like, I'll go to a party and if someone is boring or awkward, if someone is like not giving me much or something or being like uncomfortable, I'm like a break through the ice
Yeah.
person. I'm literally like, what's up? Who are you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now? Like, and I honestly think that like people that maybe think, oh, I'm boring, I'm awkward, like just like I don't know, just go for it. Ask
You're not
questions.
boring and awkward. You're self-conscious. And
exactly.
you need to go to therapy.
I don't think anybody's boring and awkward.
Because literally, I can't even think of if I was like, "What do you do for work?" and they were like, "Oh, I'm a telemarketer."
Yeah.
For example, I would
Yeah.
have so many fucking questions.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I think some
right.
people would be like, "Okay," and then you can feel like, "Oh, that was embarrassing because they're a ski instructor. That's so cool." But I would be
Right.
like, "Wait, okay, tell me everything about being a telemarketer."
Yeah. I think there's just right. It depends on who you're with.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
find
you know
someone
what?
that makes you feel not boring.
Yeah, and I'll say I do think that there are people that are boring and or awkward. And I think
Yeah.
that's totally okay. That's not
Yeah.
a judgment call. I just think they're boring, so I shouldn't date them.
Right. This is the thing. One person, like there are certain people that might have a very exciting life, but I find them
Yes.
boring. Not
Absolutely.
boring, but I'm not really super interested in what they have
Yeah.
to offer, and that's why we're not. That's why I don't spend
Yeah.
time with them.
And don't act like you're boring.
Right.
Don't
Well,
be
this is the
like,
thing.
ugh, well, I have a
Yeah.
cat, but that's pretty much it. It's kind of
Okay.
like that's you
Yeah.
doing that to yourself.
That is, I do have to say that is not fun when someone's like, I'm boring.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
you're not like that's literally like get over yourself.
That's
Like, you're
you
not
putting
boring.
up a wall
Exactly.
so someone can't get to know you.
Exactly. And I feel like that's what I was gonna say was like, if you're not giving me anything,
Yeah.
that's kind of your own choice.
Mhm.
Like that's or it's trauma. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's being like I'm boring. It's like you're putting that label on yourself.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
hope no one has called you boring before because that's not nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
if you're not given anything, then this is the thing. I will say, if you're a person that doesn't like to talk,
Yeah.
like, and I get that, like, if you don't like engaging in conversation a ton, then my advice would be just to ask a bunch of questions
Yes.
and let the
Smart.
other person talk.
Yes.
Smart.
And
Yeah.
because
But
maybe
I don't
that'd be
think
a
that's
good pairing.
boring.
No, I don't
Right.
think it's a good pairing if someone can just talk.
Yeah,
There are
someone
people
else
that I
likes to
love
talk.
to hang out with where they just talk and you have to ask questions.
Oh, and it's
They're just
so
talking.
nice. It's a break for your brain.
And you can just not, and at any
Yeah.
point you could walk away. I don't even think they would notice, and you can come back. They're still
Yes.
talking. You're like incredible, and they
Stunning.
are saying interesting things.
yeah.
But I'm just like, yeah, I don't really need to. They're happy doing this to anybody. I always think on a first date too, because I know some people are like, oh, I'm so awkward on a first date, and I'm like, I feel like I used to be kind of awkward on first dates.
Mhm.
Like or internally, I was just very nervous.
Yeah.
And I always would up front just be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous.
Be honest.
I feel like it always makes it
Yes.
so, like, the atmosphere
Yes.
changes completely.
It's
Yes.
so charming.
You've been
Yes.
vulnerable, but also in a way that feels confident because you're comfortable sharing your
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
They're usually like, me too. Or they're like, you have nothing to be nervous about.
Yeah.
I think you're really cute. And then
right,
you can
and you're
feel
like
less, you know.
comfortable, exactly.
Perfect.
Right, and I do that in auditions sometimes, where I'll be like, "Sorry, I just need to take a breath." I'm kind of like, ooh, I'm a little bit like
Yeah.
excited and nervous. And they're like, it's all good. Like, I feel like that's such a great way to break the ice, especially if you are nervous.
Yes.
Just be honest. But I think asking questions, even if you're not boring and awkward,
Yeah.
ask questions on a date.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Let's see. Do I like this person or do I like the idea of being with them?
Do I like this person or do I like the idea of this person? God, a lot of these questions are very situational.
Sure.
Like, I really need to know more details about that.
How do you suss it out though? In general, right?
Right. How do you suss it out? I mean, I would say, what are you, like, really think about like what you're looking for. Like, what are you really looking for? And like, if you feel deep within your bones that this person isn't really gonna give you what you're looking for or what you need, then you kind of like, I think, the idea of them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the concept of, you know, like what we were saying before, like being swept off your feet or like, you know, the kind of storybook romance thing. I feel like that is very connected to the idea of like, oh, I love this sort of concept of this person. But if at the end of the day, like realistically, they don't have like what you need in a relationship, then, you know, that's how I think, you know.
Yeah.
You got to really just listen to your gut.
I think if you find yourself doing a lot of justifying of behavior,
Yeah.
you probably just like the idea of them.
That's
I
a
feel like
good
if you're
point.
constantly having to be like, well, you know, he blah, 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 and he does this because da-da-da, and he does that, but he also does this, whatever. Like, if you're constantly having, like, I feel like I can just push Kendahl out into the world every day from our house.
Wow.
And I'm just like,
And they do, and it feels
How mean.
rude.
but I'm just like, what Kendahl does speaks for itself, and
Yeah,
you can
right,
also
right.
view it as a reflection of me, and I'm
Yes.
fine with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I've been in relationships with people in the past where I'm like, yes, is she embarrassing? Yes.
Sure.
Does she do things that make me feel embarrassed? 100%. Is she weird in a way that makes me feel bad? Yeah. Is she kind of rude to me? Sure. Do we fight a lot? 100%.
Okay.
But sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, if you find yourself doing that, I think you like the idea of the person more than the actual person.
I literally remember my first girlfriend ever. My friend was like, do you even like her as a person? And I was like,
oh, wow.
no, I don't like her as a person, but I love her. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
crazy. It's like, what was I doing? But I think it is. But so I think I do think when you're in a relationship that if you're not like, if you're in a relationship where you just like the person, not the idea of the person, I don't think you'll be thinking about whether or not you like just the idea of the person.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you guys have experienced this. Like, when you like really were like, oh, I think I'm in love with this person, is like you stop. You're not like, I think when you're first starting to date someone, there's almost this, you feel like you're looking at yourself from the outside.
Yes.
Like, there's this, you're sort of analyzing what's going on. You're kind of looking at the person because they're technically like, you don't really know them very well yet.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the moment that it shifted where I was like, oh, I think I'm in love with this person, was when I was not thinking.
Yeah.
Like, when you're literally just going off pure, like, I'm with this person right now. And I think if you're still not getting there, if you're still feeling like kind of looking from the outside in on the relationship, then it is very much still the idea of being with this person.
Yeah.
The analysis of it all.
Yeah, right. Like, I feel like that's the real shift. But I've had friends that, you know, it's like you kind of also have to look at the situation surrounding, like, if it's one of those things where you're thinking about like maybe asking someone out or like starting a relationship with someone, and you're trying to suss out whether you actually like them or you like the idea of being with that person. It's like looking at what you want out of the relationship.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be with that person because they're good friends with a lot of your friends, and so you want to like all be together and all be dating all the same people? Or is it because you actually want to be with that person specifically? Like, if all your friends fell away, would you still be really happy to be with that person? Or if all their friends fell away, would you still really be happy to be with that person? So yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's situational. But
That makes sense though, but I think you can be like, if there's something you find yourself being really drawn to about that person, like one specific thing, you know, would you still like them if they weren't rich?
Yeah,
would you still
right,
like them
right.
if your parents didn't like them so much?
Yeah.
Would you still like them if
That one's
they
so hard.
lived far away? Whatever,
Yeah.
like whatever those things are, I think
Yeah.
you can also think about some of those.
Totally. Right. Strip it down to like the core thing. And if you still like at the very core of that person, do you really care about them?
Yeah.
Then That's not the idea.
Wow, I love that. And to just kind of send us out of this episode, do an impression of Chase.
This is exciting because I've never met him, so this will be him to me.
Okay, my impression of Chase is
He's asleep.
He'll be he does snore. Sorry. No, he'll. Oh God, he's gonna be so embarrassed.
He's not going to listen to this podcast.
Yes, he will, Jordan. He supports everything I do.
Oh.
He's my biggest fan.
Oh my God.
Hi, Chase.
Yeah, no, he'll be like, I love you, but the way you loaded the dishwasher is crazy.
I say that exact.
Oh my
sentence
God.
to
Kendall
Jordan.
says that to me every day.
Really? Yeah.
Can I ask you, do you do things not facing the middle?
No, we're not getting into this.
Facing the middle.
No, I know. She's
All
This is the
plates
thing.
should
Don't-
face the middle.
This is the thing. There's always someone in a relationship that is like, I'm just trying to do the dishes and get through the day. I'm just trying to get shit in the dishwasher, put the pot in and close it up and have things get washed.
What happens in there?
What happens is I'm not
If it gets
I
washed,
that's none of
can't
my
be held
business. Who cares?
responsible.
Yeah.
But I just kind of, it's not like I think Chase really believes that I just throw it in there willy-nilly, that I literally am just like, tossing shit over my shoulder into the dishwasher. I am doing what I think is right. However,
Fortunately, with the dishwasher, there is
there
a
is a right way to
wrong.
do it. That's what I'm learning.
This is a hell of my own making.
Yeah, no, so that's kind of one of the more commonly said things in our household.
Wow. Thank you so much for doing an impression of him. That was beautiful.
Yeah, welcome.
Wow. All right, Mary, where can people find you?
You can find me at Marykell, MARE_KELL on all of the platforms. It's
You've
the
got to
same
go
name.
watch.
Wow.
You're
Go
so
watch.
talented.
So
It's like
talented.
a
you.
joy. I literally, anytime you post a video, I watch the full thing because I'm
too.
like infatuated.
so
I'm
nice.
obsessed.
We're so happy to have you on the podcast.
so
You're
happy.
so
Thank
great.
you for
Everybody's got to go
having
check
me.
out Mary and check out us on Spotify. We film in the Spotify offices as always. We love them. But you can also find us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you find your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Please like, comment, subscribe on all platforms, and join our Patreon.
Is this the good professional talk you're talking about?
This is so fun to me.
Wow.
Good job.
Kendall, anything you want to say before we
I'm
wrap up?
just having a good time. I just appreciate you coming so much. This is such a treat. And you had such good advice. All right. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
for doing it. We love ya.
Love you guys.
Love you.